You breathe deeply into this awareness. The ocean between stars holds not absence, but abundance. Even silence is not blank, but layered with possibility. Astronomers once believed the spaces between stars were mostly empty, but with each discovery, that emptiness grows more textured. First, the faint light of interstellar dust was measured. Then gas clouds, traced by hydrogen's subtle glow. Now, solid fragments are added to that picture, small, cold bodies drifting free. Each one proof of another system's birth, another system's violence, another system's scattering. You linger with the thought that every fragment is an exile. They are not born in isolation. They are pieces torn away, flung outward from the collisions and gravities of their homes. They carry the memory of those beginnings in their composition, in their patterns of ice and stone. To encounter one is to receive a relic, a piece of another sky story. Oumuamua, with its strange trajectory, its unclassified nature, spoke of mysteries unsolved. 3180 LAS, fragile and brief, spoke of impermanence, of ice that cannot endure the closeness of a star. Each revealed something different, and together they reveal more still, that the ocean is vast, that the ocean is full, that the ocean will continue to send more. You pause here, allowing the rhythm of the thought to settle. Ocean, distance, fragments drifting like seeds, each one moving silently, yet part of a pattern larger than itself. You breathe into the patience of this perspective. Life is brief by comparison, human generations like ripples on the shore. But the ocean of space does not hurry. It moves slowly, steadily, carrying its messengers across millennia. You feel the humility of this. To look into the night sky is to glimpse only the surface. To know that beyond the stars you see, in the gulfs between them, countless fragments are passing. Whether you notice or not, you are not at the center of this story. You are a listener, a witness, receiving what drifts close enough to see, and still, you are part of it. For the ocean carries fragments from here to when planets collide, when comets break, when gravity hurls stones outward, our system also sends its pieces into exile. Somewhere, perhaps far away, a fragment of our own sun's family may pass. Another watcher, another eye turned outward, another intelligence wondering about origins. You let this possibility rest softly in your mind. That just as we wonder about Oumuamua, someone, somewhere, may wonder about a fragment born here. That just as we look outward into the ocean, others may be looking inward, catching a glimpse of us in return. The ocean is wide enough to hold both silence and dialogue. Not a dialogue of words, but of presence, of fragments exchanged, of questions asked by the very act of drifting. You breathe gently. The stars do not rush. The ocean does not empty. It continues, vast and quiet, filled with unseen travelers. And in this awareness, you find rest. Not everything needs to be measured, not every fragment catalogued. It is enough to know they are there. It is enough to know the dark is not empty. It is enough to let your thoughts dissolve into that expanse, to float alongside stones adrift. For ages, as you drift further into stillness, the thought opens into the next horizon. If the ocean is so vast, if so many fragments wander, what else might drift unseen among them? You breathe slowly into that uncertainty. Even as telescopes traced its arc, the details dissolved. It was too faint, too fast, too far, and so it remained suspended in ambiguity. Some saw the shape of a needle, long and thin. Others thought it a flattened disk, tumbling end over end. But in truth, the image was blurred by distance. No one knows the exact shape. No one holds a clear picture. You rest in that blur, in the recognition that science often works within shadows. Measurements are taken, approximations made, and the truth hovers in probabilities, not certainties. Oumuamua is not a solved puzzle, but a page torn halfway from the book, edges frayed, meaning incomplete, and then comes 3, IATLAS. At first, it seemed brighter, a clearer messenger, easier to trace. It grew luminous as it approached, a body of fragile ice reflecting the sun. But as it neared, it fractured. It broke apart into dust and shards, and with that breaking, many answers dissolved into silence. You feel the fragility of this. These visitors do not stay long. They appear briefly, offer glimpses, and then vanish again. The questions left behind are larger than the data gathered. Why did 3I Atlas fracture so suddenly? Was it always fragile, or was there something unusual hidden within its ice? Did its fragments carry complex molecules, perhaps even the ingredients of life, lost now in scattered dust? You breathe into the thought of secrets undone. Some questions may never close. They are not failures, but invitations to wonder, to imagine, to remain open. You let yourself drift deeper into this feeling. Science often seeks answers, yet its power lies equally in shaping questions. Oumuamua and 3I Atlas left behind riddles, but those riddles are part of their gift. They remind you that knowledge is not a wall to be finished, but an open horizon, forever receding, forever calling. You rest with the possibility of other explanations. Some wondered if Oumuamua could be artificial, a fragment of technology from elsewhere, not proven, not even likely, but still an echo of thought that rippled outward. Such ideas stir imagination, but also reveal how mystery compels you to look beyond habit. Even if the answer is natural, the asking of the question stretches your vision. You feel how questions expand you. They open space within the mind, space wide enough to drift through, like interstellar dark, where meaning is not fixed but fluid. You pause on another unanswered point. If 2 such visitors were seen in quick succession, how many more pass unseen? Are they countless, a hidden population flowing between stars, rare only because your gaze is narrow? The question itself changes perspective, turning the galaxy from emptiness into fullness. A place where silence is not absence, but abundance. You breathe into the paradox. The more you learn, the larger the unknown becomes. To glimpse to visitors is not to close the case, but to widen it, to reveal the ocean of possibility behind them. What else moves through the dark? What remains hidden beyond your instruments? What remains unanswered, not because you failed, but because the universe is vast and mystery is part of its nature? You let this recognition settle softly. There is comfort in knowing the cosmos is not exhausted, not fully mapped, not reduced to finality. There are always new questions waiting, always new wanderers, always new enigmas. Knowledge deepens not by erasing mystery, but by moving alongside it, like a traveler walking beside a river. Hearing the current, but never holding it all, you drift deeper, returning to the shapes of Oumuamua and 3I Atlas. They are not only objects, but metaphors, reminders that certainty is rare and impermanence is constant. Oumuamua passed silently and was gone. 3-1 ATLAS shattered before its secrets could be measured. Both remind you that even when answers are sought, not all will be found. And yet, you do not feel emptiness in this. You feel richness. The mystery itself is a gift. It allows wonder to remain alive. It allows imagination to breathe. It allows humility to grow. The humility of knowing that you do not know. You linger with this humility, like a blanket drawn gently around you. The cosmos is immense. Its truths are older, larger, more complex than you can yet hold. But this does not diminish you. It invites you. It reminds you that being small is not being absent. To wonder is to belong. To rest in questions is to take part in the same vast unfolding. You close your eyes, not to shut out the questions, but to cradle them. They do not need quick resolution. They are like seeds planted in thought, to bloom later, or perhaps never, still holding meaning simply by existing. And as you drift, you sense the next movement of thought approaching. If these questions remain unanswered, if mystery continues to expand, then what does this say about the larger search? What new instruments, what new ways of listening might one day bring the unknown into focus? You let your thoughts widen until they dissolve into quiet. Beyond the planets, beyond the sun's faint glow, there is only distance, vast and immeasurable. The long silence that stretches between stars. This is the ocean of interstellar space. It is not water, not liquid, yet the metaphor holds. For like an ocean, it is deep, unbounded, filled with currents invisible, and travelers adrift who ride them. You rest inside this thought. Oumuamua passed through, not as an exception, but as evidence of what has always been. It was one fragment among countless others. An object shaken loose from its home system, set sailing across the galactic sea, and then 3I, Atlas followed. The second known, its brightness growing as it neared, its body unraveling in the warmth. Of the sun, one messenger, then another. Not proof of rarity, but proof of abundance. The ocean is not empty. It is filled with stones that drift like messages in bottles, each carrying the fingerprint of its origin. You breathe slowly, imagining the scale of it. Between the stars lies not nothing, but a vastness seeded with fragments. Planets born in chaos hurl pieces outward, comets fracture, asteroids are flung beyond the grasp of gravity, and each fragment sails onward, millions, billions, an uncountable multitude of voyagers. The ocean is quiet, but not silent. It speaks in the faintest whispers, each visitor crossing our sight line, a reminder that the galaxy is restless, always in motion, always casting out seeds into its own dark sea. You linger with this image, stone and ice set adrift, traveling for eons without end. No engine, no intention, only momentum carried forward. It is a kind of patience beyond comprehension. These fragments wait centuries, millions of years, before chance brings them near another star, perhaps near ours. You rest in the stillness of their journeys, across distances so wide that light itself takes thousands of years to cross. They drift without hurry, unaware of time, unaware of destination, and yet their presence reshapes your perspective. For if even a few have reached us, how many more drift unseen? How many millions wander in the dark, invisible to our fragile net of detection, slipping past without notice? You let this thought expand, and the ocean feels fuller, richer, not empty, but alive with unmeasured possibility. Each unseen traveler could be ordinary, or it could carry chemistry unlike anything known. Molecules stitched in the cold, records of other suns. Each might be an archive, a drifting library without words, holding a story that cannot yet be read. You think of Oumuamua, a name that means scout or messenger, chosen from the Hawaiian language when this object was first detected in 2017. It was the first confirmed visitor from beyond your solar system, the first known fragment of another star's world to cross paths with Earth's watchful gaze. And yet, in the vast history of the cosmos, you realize that this one moment was only a ripple, a passing glimpse of something that had traveled for millions, perhaps billions of years. You rest on the thought of its journey to cross between stars as to wander through an ocean so wide that light itself takes years, centuries, millennia to move from shore to shore. Oumuamua was not born of your sun. It was cast out long ago, perhaps from a distant planetary nursery, when young worlds collided and scattered fragments outward. Somewhere in some forgotten system, it was freed from gravity's embrace and sent adrift into the interstellar dark. You imagine that journey, a fragment of stone or ice, silent, alone, moving endlessly through a cold so deep that even atoms slow their vibrations. For ages it drifted without witness, unseen, untouched, until by chance its path intersected with yours. The probability feels impossibly small, like a grain of sand floating through an ocean and brushing briefly against your fingertips. Yet it happened, and for a moment humanity looked up and saw evidence that the universe is not closed, not contained within one star's family, but open and connected. You feel the weight of that realization settle softly inside you. Your solar system is not an isolated island. It is a shoreline touched by currents from distant suns. Oumuamua was proof, a messenger carrying no words, no language, yet reminding you that the universe is alive with movement, with exchange, with hidden connections across unfathomable distances. You linger on its strangeness, unlike the familiar comets that visit your sky, shedding tails of gas and dust when warmed by the sun. Oumuamua revealed no such display. It appeared elongated, perhaps cigar-shaped, perhaps more like a flattened disk, its exact form never clearly resolved. It moved too quickly, faster than any object bound by the sun could move. It did not circle, it only passed through. It came from outside, and it would never return. Even its brightness shifted in ways that puzzled observers, as if it were tumbling in a shape no one had ever seen before. Some speculated it was rock, others thought it was ice cloaked in mystery. A few even wondered if it might be something beyond natural explanation. Yet the object itself offered no answers. It glided silently past, leaving only questions in its wake. You notice how the mind seeks explanation, how it reaches for certainty, yet the cosmos often resists. Oumuamua reminds you that not all mysteries are meant to be solved quickly. Some are meant to be held like smooth stones in your palm, not grasped too tightly, but felt, turned over, contemplated. You breathe into this thought. The human urge is to classify, to define, to pin down with labels. But here is an object that slipped between categories, belonging fully to none. Not quite a comet, not quite an asteroid, not easily placed in any familiar drawer of knowledge. Instead, it occupies a liminal space, a threshold object, a visitor that carries with it the reminder that the universe is always larger than your definitions. You let this realization ease you rather than trouble you. The unknown is not always something to fear. Sometimes the unknown is an invitation to wonder. Oumuamua's passing was such an invitation to wonder about other worlds, other systems, other journeys that unfold beyond the reach of your eyes. You rest with the idea of distance. The nearest star to your own is Proxima Centauri, more than 4 light-years away. That is 25 trillion miles, a number so vast that the mind cannot hold it all at once. To travel such a distance with your current technology would take tens of thousands of years. Yet Oumuamua crossed such gulfs as though they were natural, as though drifting through interstellar space were no different than a leaf carried along a stream. You soften into that thought. The scale of the universe dwarfs your sense of time, yet your mind can still touch it in imagination. You can feel the vastness not in numbers, but in rhythm, in the long inhale and exhale of cosmic ages. A fragment of matter, adrift for eons, finally brushes against your sky, a reminder that you are part of something larger, something continuous, something that does not begin and end with Earth alone. You let this reminder settle like a gentle weight, grounding you and lifting you at once. The cosmos does not rush, and neither must you. As your thoughts slow, you sense the parallel, just as Oumuamua glided silently through space. Your breath glides silently in and out, carrying you across the night. There is comfort in knowing that you are not alone in your stillness. Above, countless stars are sending their own fragments outward, casting silent messengers into the dark. Most will never be seen, never be known, but some, by chance, may pass close enough for eyes to catch their faint glimmers. Each one carries with it a story of origin, a silent testimony that worlds beyond your own exist and endure. You drift now toward reflection. If a single object can carry such meaning, what else lies waiting beyond the edge of your vision? Oumuamua is not the end of the story. It is only the beginning, a first whisper from beyond. Its unanswered questions are not failures of understanding, but invitations to keep looking, to keep listening, to remain open to the possibility that the universe is speaking in ways more subtle than words. And as your eyes grow heavy, you hold gently to that invitation. The cosmos is vast, and within its silence are endless stories not yet told. Oumuamua was only one, a visitor beyond memory, a reminder that you are part of a universe where the boundaries between stars are not barriers but bridges. You rest in that knowledge, soft and slow, letting it carry you toward the next thought, the next messenger, the next chapter of wonder. You let your breath settle into a steady rhythm, slow and calm, as though each inhale brushes the edges of time itself. In this stillness, you begin to sense the long patience of matter, the way stone holds memory far beyond the span of human life. Every fragment of rock, every grain of dust, carries a history older than mountains, older than oceans, older than Earth itself. Between the stars, countless fragments wander, remnants of ancient births, collisions and exiles. These are asteroids and comets, the drifting relics of creation. They are not grand in size compared to planets, not luminous like stars, yet they carry within them the whispers of beginnings. They are the archives of the cosmos, small bodies that hold the earliest notes of the symphony from which solar systems arise. You reflect on how stars are born from clouds of gas and dust, great swirls of matter drawn together by gravity's gentle pull. In those nurseries, some of the material forms planets, vast spheres warmed by their suns. But not all of it finds such purpose. Some fragments remain small, left behind, scattered, wandering. These stones, these icy shards, are like the crumbs of creation's feast, overlooked, but never meaningless. Asteroids, you realize, are largely rock and metal. Solid fragments born from broken worlds or the raw material of planets that never formed. Comets, by contrast, are more fragile, their bodies filled with ices that release bright tails when warmed by a star. Both kinds of wanderers drift in silence, yet each tells a story of origin. A fragment of iron may speak of violent collisions in the early solar system. A speck of frozen carbon may tell of molecules that could become the foundation for life. You soften into the thought that even in their silence, these stones are storytellers. They carry memory in the way they are shaped, in the elements they contain, in the orbits they follow. To hold a meteorite in your hand is to touch a time before Earth had oceans, before it had skies, before even the sun was fully alive with fusion. It is to hold a memory of creation itself. You let this perspective expand, for just as your own solar system is filled with these small relics, so too are the countless other systems scattered across the galaxy. Each one sends its own stones, drifting outward, some escaping into interstellar night. Across the ages, these fragments travel between stars, crossing gulfs so vast that their journeys become almost endless. In their silence, they weave a cosmic web of exchange, scattering the seeds of memory through the universe. You pause on the image of a comet. Its orbit carries it from the frozen edges of a system inward, toward the warmth of a star. As it approaches, sunlight awakens its ices, and gas begins to flow outward. Dust, once locked in darkness, is released into glowing trails. To look upon such a sight is to witness a body revealing its own past, shedding fragments of itself like whispers cast into the wind. And then, once again, it drifts back into cold obscurity, carrying what remains of its fragile core into silence once more. In this rhythm, you find a reflection of your own life. You too carry memory within your being, the imprint of ancestors, the inheritance of molecules once born in stars, just as asteroids and comets hold the record of early creation. So your body holds the record of time, written in atoms that have cycled through generations of stars before finding their way into you. You breathe into this recognition. You are not separate from these stones. You are of the same matter, arranged differently, animated by life, yet fundamentally kin. To think of asteroids and comets is to think of distant relatives, silent cousins, wandering in the dark, each carrying their own record of where they have been. You let your mind drift to collisions. Though small, these bodies shape the destiny of worlds. Earth itself bears the scars of their visits, from craters etched into the surface to the possibility that comets delivered the water that fills your oceans. Some scientists suggest that the molecules essential for life, carbon compounds, amino acids, may have first arrived on Earth, carried by these drifting bodies. In this way, the stones between the stars may have been more than memory keepers. They may have been messengers, bearers of life's raw ingredients. You linger on this possibility. The same bodies that can bring destruction and impact can also bring the foundations of creation. They remind you that the cosmos is not divided neatly into good and bad, safe and dangerous, but that everything carries within it the potential for both. A collision may devastate, yet it may also enrich. An icy fragment may extinguish life in one moment and seed it in another. You let this duality rest gently in your thoughts. The universe is not simple, and yet its complexity carries beauty. Stones between the stars are humble in size, yet vast in meaning. They embody both risk and gift, both threat and promise. They hold the paradox of destruction and creation entwined, inseparable, balanced. You breathe deeply, slowly, allowing yourself to feel the long patience of these wanderers. Some circle the sun faithfully, following predictable orbits for millions of years. Others drift more chaotically, perturbed by the pull of planets, their paths uncertain. A few escape entirely, breaking free of one star's gravity to wander endlessly toward another. In each case, they move without haste, guided by forces so steady that their journeys unfold across spans of time beyond human measure. And here, in the quiet of night, you sense how calming it is to remember that not all journeys are rushed. Stones between the stars remind you that slowness is its own rhythm, that even in wandering without destination there is meaning. They drift, they endure, they carry their histories without urgency, simply moving forward as time allows. You feel the kinship of this rhythm in your own body. Your breath, too, follows its quiet orbit, circling in and out without effort. Each beat of your heart is a small orbit of its own, steady and continuous. In the vast silence of the cosmos, you are not separate. You are a small rhythm within the greater rhythm, a quiet traveler within the greater wandering. As your thoughts grow softer, you return to the idea of memory. These stones are not alive, yet they remember. Their elements, their scars, their orbits are records written in matter. They are the diaries of creation, pages scattered across the galaxy. And though they do not speak in words, they speak in presence. They remind you that nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed, only carried forward in a new shape. You rest in this comfort. Dust becomes stone, stone becomes fragment, fragment becomes seed, seed becomes life. The chain is unbroken, the memory eternal. Even as stars burn out and galaxies shift, the stones continue to drift, carrying with them the silent continuity of matter across ages. And as your eyes grow heavy, you sense the next thought waiting just beyond the horizon. If these stones wander so widely, if they travel between stars and across systems, then what paths do they take? What strange orbits draw them near and then cast them away again? You let your thoughts settle into a slow rhythm, like ripples spreading on a still pond. With each breath, your awareness drifts outward into the quiet mathematics of motion. Every body in the universe moves along a path shaped not by chance, but by the invisible tug of gravity. Some paths are familiar circles, ellipses, the gentle curves of planets locked in harmony with their star. Others are rare, unexpected, almost impossible. And then there is the path of Oumuamua. You think of orbits as the handwriting of the cosmos, each one a signature written across the dark. Planets trace smooth ellipses, steady and predictable. Comets weave elongated loops, their courses carrying them far into the cold before returning them to the light. Asteroids wander in belts, circling in patterns that, though sometimes chaotic, are still bound to the sun's pull. But Oumuamua's trajectory did not belong to these families. Its line bent differently, not inward and back, but inward and away, a fleeting signature across the page of your sky. Its speed was the first sign. Even before it reached its closest point to the sun, it was moving too quickly to ever be captured. Planets and comets are held by gravity, slowed enough to remain within the system's embrace. Oumuamua, by contrast, arrived already free. Its velocity was greater than the sun could restrain. It came, it curved, and it left, following not a circle but a hyperbola, a line of escape. You rest on the thought of that word, hyperbola. In the soft quiet of your mind, it is not a technical term, but a shape of departure, an open curve that never closes upon itself. If an ellipse is a cradle, holding a planet gently in place, then a hyperbola is a parting gesture, a line that waves once and drifts forever outward. Oumuamua traced such a shape, reminding you that not all visitors are meant to stay. You picture the way astronomers traced its path. With careful observation, they measured its position night by night, plotting points of light across their charts. From these points, they reconstructed the curve, a bending arc that revealed its origin from beyond the solar system. No known comet, no asteroid, no familiar traveler moved so. The curve itself was a message. This object is not of here. You let this realization sink in. The path of Oumuamua was not merely motion, it was testimony. It testified to a larger truth, that your solar system is not closed, but open to encounters with the beyond. Other stars cast out their fragments, just as yours does, and once in a while, one drifts close enough for you to glimpse it. The strangeness deepened in its details. Its brightness fluctuated in unusual ways, as though its shape were elongated. Perhaps a spindle, perhaps a shard, perhaps even a flattened disk, tumbling end over end. No telescope resolved its body clearly, so its form remained uncertain, like a silhouette glimpsed through fog. Yet the light it reflected told of a regularity, something not easily compared to the rounder forms of typical comets or asteroids. You pause here, resting in the beauty of uncertainty. There is a temptation to want clarity, to force a shape upon the unknown. But in sleep, in quiet, you learn the value of leaving questions open, of resting inside the not knowing. Oumuamua invited this, not the comfort of certainty, but the spaciousness of wonder. Even its motion carried puzzle. As it receded, it accelerated ever so slightly, as though some faint force nudged it outward. Ordinary comets show such behavior when gas escapes their warming surfaces, producing subtle thrust. But with Oumuamua, no bisivli coma, no tail. No sign of outgassing appeared. The push was there, measurable, but its source was hidden. And so the question remained, what invisible hand guided that gentle acceleration? You let this thought drift through you slowly. Some suggested exotic explanations, whispers of artificiality, the idea of something crafted rather than natural. Others proposed more subtle physics, perhaps icy gases released in ways too faint to see, or surface properties that reflected sunlight differently than expected. Each idea was a lantern held to the dark, but none illuminated the whole path. And still, the object moved on, indifferent to speculation. Continuing outward into the void, you breathe into the image of that departure. For millions of years it had wandered unseen, and for only weeks it passed within reach of observation. Its presence was fleeting, yet the questions it left will linger for lifetimes. You realize that sometimes the path of an object is less about where it leads and more about what it awakens in those who witness it. Oumuamua's strange trajectory was not only a curve through space, it was a curve through human thought, bending minds toward new possibilities. You soften into the larger rhythm. The universe is full of such trajectories, some bound, some free, some looping endlessly, some departing forever. Your own planet moves along its ancient ellipse, a steady cradle around the sun. Yet in that orderliness, there is always room for interruption, for the unexpected line that crosses the page and reminds you of the infinite variety beyond. You rest on the metaphor of currents. Just as oceans on Earth carry debris from distant shores, so too do galactic currents carry fragments between stars. Oumuamua was one such fragment, drawn not by design but by the flow of gravity through the Milky Way. To trace its orbit is to glimpse the invisible tides that connect one system to another. An ocean of motion too vast to chart, yet felt in the passage of a single stone. In this realization, you sense both humility and belonging. Your solar system is not central, not isolated, but part of a web of exchange. To see a hyperbolic path is to be reminded that you are woven into something larger, a cosmic fabric where every star contributes its fragments to the whole. You breathe with this knowledge, slow and steady. You let the path of Oumuamua become a meditation, arrival, passage, departure, a simple rhythm, yet profound in its implications. Each breath mirrors this. You inhale, the air enters. You pause, the air rests within. You exhale, the air departs. Nothing is held forever, yet each cycle carries meaning. And so, as you drift deeper into quiet, you cradle the thought of paths that do not return. You honor their fleetingness, their impermanence, their gift of reminding you that wonder does not need permanence to be real. Yet still, the puzzle remains unresolved. Why the strange acceleration? Why the unusual brightness shifts? Why the form, so different from the stones you have known? These questions linger, like stars that remain just beyond the horizon of your vision. They do not disturb your rest. They enrich it, surrounding you with mystery as soft as a blanket. And so you let the chapter close, not with an answer, but with a doorway, a gentle curve leading outward, inviting you to follow, not with your body, but with your imagination. You let your thoughts slow into quiet ripples, and you begin to sense the deep rhythm of the cosmos, a rhythm older than memory itself. Stars are not solitary. Each one is a sun, and around nearly every sun there is a family of worlds. Some are small, some are vast, some are warm with oceans, some are frozen in endless night. You feel this truth softening in your awareness. Every star is not just a point of light, but a cradle of possibilities, a host to stones, to dust, to fragments wandering in its gravity. When you look at your own sun, you see this family clearly. Planets move in steady paths, comets drift in long loops, asteroids circle in belts, and dust glows faintly in scattered light. But what you feel now is a larger truth, that this is not unique. The Milky Way is filled with suns, each carrying its own retinue of matter. And just as in your system, collisions and encounters scatter pieces outward. Fragments are flung into the dark, leaving their homes forever, cast adrift into the ocean of interstellar space. Oumuamua may have been such a fragment. Perhaps once it circled another star, a small shard within a wider family. Perhaps it was born in the early years of that system, when planets collided and smaller bodies were ejected like sparks from a fire. Or perhaps it was torn loose by the gravitational tug of a passing giant, a wandering exile sent forth without return. Whatever the cause, it drifted for ages, carrying with it the fingerprint of its forgotten home. You breathe into that thought. Even strangers carry stories of where they began. A rock drifting between stars may look silent, featureless, but within it lies the history of its parent sun, its minerals, its ices, its density, its orbit. All of these are signatures, quiet marks that trace back to the environment that shaped it. To study such an object, even briefly, is to touch another system across light years. To hold in your awareness a message from a place you cannot see. You let yourself rest in the wideness of this perspective. The galaxy is not a still expanse, but a place of exchange. Stones are exiled, yes, but in their exile they become travelers, weaving connections between suns. Each system casts fragments outward, and over millions of years, those fragments drift into others. Rarely do they come close enough to be noticed, but when they do, they are whispers of other suns. Reminders that the Milky Way is alive with unseen traffic. You imagine the sheer abundance. Astronomers have estimated that interstellar space may hold trillions upon trillions of such objects, wandering silently between the stars. For every star that forms planets, countless smaller bodies are left behind, and countless more are cast outward. The galaxy becomes a sea filled with stones, each one carrying the memory of its birthplace. You pause on the word whisper. It feels gentle, appropriate. Oumuamua did not shout. It did not announce itself with light or power. It appeared briefly as a faint point of brightness, slipping through observation, almost missed. Like a whisper, it was subtle, fleeting, easy to overlook. Yet for those who heard it, it carried weight. It carried the truth that you were not closed within your own son's family, but open to the stories of others. This is the gift of astronomy, to listen for whispers that come not in words, but in light, in motion, in presence. You cannot hear a stone speak, but you can hear its orbit, its speed, its shifting brightness. You can hear the silence it carries and the questions it leaves behind. These are the languages of the universe, not spoken, not written, but felt, in patterns and probabilities, in trajectories and fragments. You soften into the realization that every sun is more than light. Around each one are stories, some hidden, some revealed, some wandering far beyond their source. To look at a star is to know that it is not alone, that it is encircled by companions both large and small, and that some of those companions may someday drift into your awareness. And so, in your rest, you consider the intimacy of distance. Oumuamua came from a sun you will never see directly. Its home may lie dozens, hundreds, perhaps thousands of light years away. And yet, through its presence, you touched that place. You held in your awareness a fragment of matter that once belonged elsewhere, and in doing so, you brushed against the memory of another world. Distance does not erase connection. Even across cosmic gulfs, matter carries stories forward. You let this reflection ease into something more personal. Just as stones travel from their suns, you to carry within you the whispers of distant origins. The elements in your body, carbon, oxygen, calcium, iron, were not formed on Earth. They were forged in stars, born in nuclear furnaces and released in explosions long before the sun itself came into being. You are already the exile of other suns, carrying their stories within your bones, your breath, your heartbeat. In this sense, you and Oumuamua are kin, both wanderers shaped by stars that no longer shine upon you directly. There is comfort in this kinship. The galaxy feels less lonely when you realize how deeply it is interconnected. No system is completely separate, no star entirely isolated. Matter drifts, cycles, exchanges. A stone from one system may seed another. A fragment from one collision may someday shape the history of another world. You are part of this flow, carried by it, shaped within it. You rest gently in this awareness, letting the vastness feel soft rather than overwhelming. The Milky Way, with its billions of stars, is not a chaos but a network, a web of motion and exchange. Oumuamua is not an anomaly but a reminder, a visible instance of what is otherwise invisible. It is a whisper you happened to hear, one among countless others drifting unheard. As your thoughts slow, you find peace in the idea of patience. These stones do not hurry. They drift for millions of years, perhaps billions, crossing the silent dark without urgency. They are timeless in their pace, reminders that not all journeys are measured in days or decades. Some are measured in eons, in the slow unfolding of galactic tides. You feel this patience soothe you, inviting you into the same rhythm. No rush, no urgency, only the quiet assurance that motion itself is enough. You return, softly, to the image of Oumuamua as an exile, cast out from its home, wandering endlessly, yet still carrying the mark of its origin. Even in exile, it is not empty. Even in distance, it is not without meaning. And in its passing, it left you with more than mystery. It left you with a reminder that connection persists even across absence. As you drift closer to sleep, you hold gently to that thought. Every stranger carries a story. Every fragment is a witness. Every whisper from the dark is a reminder that the universe is filled not only with silence, but with memory. You let your mind drift toward the image of a comet. You know the way it appears in the sky, a glowing head, a long shimmering tail, trailing behind it like a veil caught in the wind. It is one of the most familiar and poetic sights of the night. For as long as humans have looked upward, comets have been omens, messengers, bearers of both fear and wonder. Their tails, stretching across the dark, are what make them unmistakable. And yet, Oumuamua carried no tail. It passed close enough to the sun that, had it been a typical comet, excess locked within it should have warmed and sublimated into gas, releasing dust that would scatter sunlight into brilliance. But no such veil appeared, no trail of vapor, number, plume of dust, nothing that marked it clearly as a comet. You breathe into this contradiction. On one hand, its acceleration, the faint, unexplainable push as it receded from the sun, suggested that something was leaving its surface, something giving it a comet-like behavior. But the visible signs were absent. It was as though it wore the invisible mask of a comet, behaving like one in motion but not in appearance. You rest in this in-between space where categories blur. It is here that your mind is invited to slow, to loosen its grasp on definitions. Not every object fits neatly into a box. Oumuamua was neither the stony asteroid you might expect, nor the icy comet you have always known. It was something else, something that asked you to consider the grey spaces between. You soften into the thought that science itself often grows in these grey spaces. When something defies categories, it is not a mistake, but a gift. It shows you that your definitions are not the universe itself, but tools, sketches. The universe is always richer, always stranger, always more varied than the names you give it. Oumuamua's lack of a tail was such a gift, a reminder that even silence can hold a story. Consider for a moment the delicacy of comets. They are often called dirty snowballs, fragile accumulations of ice, dust, and rock left over from the formation of solar systems. Boundaries between suns are porous, where the space between stars is not empty but alive with travelers. You let yourself rest in the rhythm of possibility. 2 visitors became known. Countless others remain hidden. What are the odds that any one fragment is noticed? They pass so quickly, so faintly, so briefly that most escape detection. Earth's instruments scan, but the sky is wide, and human attention is small compared to the canvas of the cosmos. For every visitor seen, millions pass unseen. The silence above you is crowded with presence. You breathe slowly, letting this paradox settle, that emptiness is full, that silence is alive. The night sky is a surface that hides an ocean. Beneath the darkness, the waters are filled with messengers, each carrying its own testimony. You cannot see them all, but you can sense their abundance. The galaxy is saturated with possibility. Astronomers, in their careful ways, have tried to estimate this hidden population. From the brief glimpse of Oumuamua and the disintegrating glow of 3i ATLAS, they calculate probabilities, densities, distributions. Their estimates suggest numbers so vast they exceed comprehension. Perhaps quadrillions of fragments, drifting between the stars. You hold this gently, without needing to grasp it fully. The numbers are too large, but the meaning is simple. The galaxy is filled with travelers. You let this reflection become more personal. You, too, live surrounded by what you cannot see. Your own life is filled with unseen presences, thoughts unspoken, moments unnoticed, connections invisible, yet real. Just as telescopes capture only a fraction of what drifts through the night, your awareness captures only a fraction of what surrounds you. And yet, even unseen, those presences shape your world. So it is with the hidden population of interstellar messengers. They shape your understanding of the galaxy simply by existing, even if you never see them. Their abundance tells you that systems are not isolated islands. They exchange matter, seeds, fragments, whispers. Your world is part of this exchange. It is not alone. You linger with the image of an ocean. Each fragment is like a drifting shell, a piece of coral, a grain of sand carried by the tide. Alone, it may seem insignificant, but together they fill the sea. They define its texture. They carry its memory. The Milky Way is such an ocean, and you are floating within it, surrounded by these quiet travelers, most of which you will never see, yet all of which are there. You let this image soften into stillness. It calms you to know that you are not adrift in emptiness, but immersed in abundance. The silence is not void, but fullness. The darkness is not absence, but hidden life. Oumuamua and 3i Atlas were the whispers you happened to hear. Brief voices from the multitude, they remind you of the chorus behind them, the uncountable population you cannot yet perceive. The echoes of this hidden population filled the galaxy, quiet but constant. Like a background hum you can almost sense if you listen closely enough. You breathe into that hum. It is steady, reassuring, endless. It does not demand your attention, but it surrounds you all the same. You rest within it as you would rest within the sound of waves or the whisper of wind through trees. It is the sound of abundance, the reminder that the universe is never empty. And then you let your thoughts drift one step further. If these messengers are so numerous, what stories do they carry? What molecules ride within their ice? What minerals hide in their stone? Could some hold the chemistry of life, scattered seeds cast outward from distant suns? Could some, by chance, find new homes, striking planets and delivering the raw materials for beginnings? You linger with this possibility. If the galaxy is filled with fragments, then perhaps it is also filled with the seeds of life. Perhaps life is not bound to a single system, but shared, exchanged, spread across the stars like pollen in the wind. The hidden population is not just fragments of rock and ice. It is the potential for connection, for continuity, for life itself to be larger than one world. You soften into this reflection, feeling both wonder and peace. You do not need answers now. You only need the awareness that abundance exists, that the echoes of a hidden population fill the night around you, that you are immersed in a galaxy alive with unseen presence. Your breath slows, your body relaxes, and your thoughts drift like the fragments themselves, wandering, unhurried, carried by currents larger than you can know. You let your thoughts drift into quiet patterns, soft and curving like lines drawn in sand. Every body in the universe moves along a path, and each path is shaped by gravity's invisible hand. Motion itself becomes a kind of geometry, a language written not in ink, but in the gentle pull between masses. You close your inner eyes and feel these shapes begin to emerge: circles, ellipses, parabolas, hyperbolas, each one a different whisper of possibility. Planets move in ellipses, their paths closed, repeating endlessly. They circle their suns like beads on a string, steady, predictable, loyal. These orbits feel like lullabies, cyclical rhythms that carry on for billions of years, holding stability in their repetition. You rest in this image, soothed by the thought that so much of the cosmos flows in cycles that endure longer than civilizations. But not every path closes. Some are open, fleeting. Comets sometimes follow long ellipses, returning only after thousands of years, yet still bound to the star that birthed them. And then there are the rarer arcs, hyperbolas, the lines of escape. These are paths that do not circle back, but instead arrive, bend under gravity's touch, and continue outward forever. Oumuamua and 3I, Atlas, both followed such hyperbolic arcs. They did not belong to the sun, they only visited. Their motion testified to freedom, bodies not held, not bound, only passing through. You let this thought settle softly. Not everything is meant to stay. Some things are only meant to brush past, leaving their quiet impression before drifting away. You breathe into the rhythm of these shapes. A circle is a cradle, holding something in its arms. An ellipse is a stretched cradle, elongated, but still embracing. A parabola is a threshold, right at the edge between return and departure. And a hyperbola is the line of farewell, a gesture of release, a reminder that not all connections are permanent. Gravity sculpts all of these. You feel its presence as both anchor and gatekeeper. It is not forceful in the way of collisions or explosions. It is gentle, continuous, steady. It shapes, without interruption. It bends trajectories, the way wind bends grass, the way water shapes stone. To understand motion in space is to understand that gravity is always writing, always drawing, always guiding. You rest in the awareness that even freedom is shaped. Oumuamua was not untouched as it passed. Its path bent slightly, curved by the sun's pull, even as it escaped. The arc of its hyperbola is like the brushstroke of an artist, curved by the presence of another, yet ultimately continuing outward. It is the balance between influence and independence. You linger with this metaphor. Every encounter leaves a trace, even if brief. Just as gravity bent the paths of these visitors, so too do your own encounters bend the arcs of your life. People, places, moments, Each one leaves a gentle curve, a redirection, even if you continue onward. Motion is never entirely free of influence, but influence does not erase freedom. The path continues, shaped but unbroken. Mathematics gives names to these shapes, but you feel them as rhythms, as feelings. Circles are comfort, ellipses are longing, parabolas are thresholds, hyperbolas are departures. These are not cold abstractions, but living metaphors for the ways the universe moves. Numbers may describe them, but it is the imagery of their curves that calms you now. You breathe in, tracing a circle in your mind. You breathe out, releasing into a line that never returns. In this meditation, you begin to sense that your own breath is an orbit, each inhale and exhale a repeating cycle. Yet life itself contains hyperbolus, to moments that pass only once, never to return, leaving memory as their only trace. Oumuamua was such a moment. It entered your awareness briefly, bent under gravity's pull, then departed forever. Its orbit was a message. I am not of here. I do not stay. 3-1. Atlas carried the same truth, though its body fractured before it could complete its journey whole. Both were reminders that the cosmos is not only about cycles and returns, it is also about passing through. You let yourself rest in the balance between repetition and impermanence. The planets circle endlessly, anchoring you in stability. Visitors pass fleetingly, teaching you impermanence. Both truths coexist. Both are part of the larger whole. You reflect on the subtle beauty of hyperbolic motion. To follow such a path is to escape the grasp of a star, to carry enough speed that no gravity can pull you back. It is freedom, but freedom that requires momentum, that requires a history of forces adding together until escape becomes possible. Hyperbolas are rare, but they exist as reminders that release is real. You soften into this idea that sometimes life itself offers you hyperbolic moments. Moments where you break free of patterns, depart from cycles, move beyond what once held you. Their tails are not permanent features, but temporary displays, released when sunlight touches them. The veil is an interaction, not a fixed identity, a conversation between the body and its star. Without sunlight, a comet is just a dark nucleus, invisible against the black. Only when warmed does it reveal itself, trailing gas and dust like an ancient script written across the sky. But Oumuamua did not reveal, it kept its silence. If Isas lay hidden inside, they did not express themselves in ways your instruments could see. If gases were released, they were too faint, too subtle, too elusive to trace. And so, though it moved like a comet in some respects, it remained invisible in the ways you expected. This absence of a tail left room for speculation. Some imagined its surface coated in crusts that sealed in its ices, preventing release. Others thought perhaps it was composed of materials that behaved differently, sublimating in ways unseen. A few suggested even stranger possibilities: hydrogen ice, exotic molecules, or surface properties that scattered sunlight unusually. And still others leaned toward the simplicity of stone. Perhaps it was not a comet at all, but a shard of rock from another world, pushed in ways you do not yet understand. You breathe deeply, letting these possibilities wash over you like waves. None are certain. All are attempts to frame the silence, to draw meaning from what was not seen. But you remember, uncertainty is not failure. Uncertainty is spaciousness, a chance to dwell in wonder. The comet with no tail became, instead, the visitor with no categories you allow yourself to rest in the comfort of this mystery. The universe does not exist to satisfy your expectations. It is not obligated to reveal itself in familiar patterns. Instead, it offers glimpses that ask you to expand, to stretch, to consider that there are more ways for matter to exist than you have yet imagined. Oumuamua's silence was one such expansion. You reflect on how often in life meaning arises, not from what is present, but from what is absent. A pause in music gives shape to the notes. A silence in conversation holds as much weight as words. A night without a comet's tail still carries wonder, precisely because of what is missing. In this way, Oumuamua's lack of a veil became its own message, its own form of expression, and so you linger with the paradox. It accelerated as though releasing something, yet it revealed nothing. It behaved like a comet without a tail, a contradiction carried silently across the sky. And in holding this paradox, you find yourself soothed. The world is full of contradictions, and the cosmos reminds you that this is not disorder, but depth. You let your breath fall into the same rhythm, present, then absent, movement, then stillness. Just as a comet's tail can appear and disappear, so too does your breath glide in and out. And just as Oumuamua held its silence, so too can you rest in the silence between breaths. In the quiet that asks for no explanation, you rest with the thought that not all things need to be fully known. Some remain undefined, unlabeled, unbound. To accept this is to rest more deeply in the mystery of existence itself. Oumuamua invites you into this acceptance, not to solve, but to listen. As your thoughts grow softer, you picture once more the archetype of a comet, glowing, tailed, streaming across the sky. And then you picture the absence, the quiet traveler without such adornment, still moving, still real, still part of the universe's rhythm. Both are true, both belong, both are reminders that reality is not limited to appearances. You let this reflection carry you toward rest. The comet with no tail is not an error, not a flaw, but a new story, a new kind of presence. Its strangeness is gentle, its mystery unthreatening, its paradox soothing. It asks you to relax into not knowing, to soften your grip on categories, to allow yourself to drift into the spaciousness of possibility. And as you close your awareness into the quiet of night, you hold softly to the thought that there are always more kinds of visitors, more kinds of strangeness, waiting beyond your horizon. You rest in the stillness of night, and slowly your thoughts open to the possibility of repetition. Once, a visitor passed through your sky, and you thought it might be the only one, a singular event, a rare and fleeting chance. Yet now, as your awareness drifts, you feel the quiet reminder that the universe often repeats itself. One story is seldom the last. Another visitor appeared, and its name is 3i. Atlas.u, linger on that name, soft on your tongue like a whisper. The 3i tells you it is the third interstellar object identified, though it is the second confirmed to pass through your solar system. Atlas is the name of the survey that found it, an array of telescopes searching the skies for objects that wander close to Earth. In the deep quiet, you feel the poetry of this, that a tool built to protect your world also caught sight of a messenger from beyond. 3i Atlas was discovered in 2019, only 2 years after Oumuamua. To notice another visitor so soon was astonishing. Some had thought the first would be unique, a chance alignment unlikely to be repeated in lifetimes. And yet here, again, came another fragment from another star, sliding silently into view. The pattern deepened. What was once a singular mystery now became part of something larger. You let this thought widen inside you. 2 visitors now, not one. The truth hidden in the silence of space becomes clearer. These wanderers are not anomalies. They are not impossibilities. They are part of a population, countless fragments adrift between suns, each carrying the fingerprint of another world. As you breathe into this realization, you allow the presence of 3I Atlas to unfold gently in your awareness. Unlike Oumuamua, which was dry and silent, this new visitor revealed itself as more delicate. It behaved like a comet, shining with the faint veil of gas and dust released as it neared the sun. Its brightness grew, swelling as it approached, a fragile glow against the backdrop of the galaxy. You picture the delicacy of that light. Comets brighten not because they burn, but because they release. Sunlight warms their icy cores, and molecules once locked in silence are freed, streaming outward into space. Dust follows, scattering sunlight in soft clouds that make them visible. From great distance, this fragile radiance is not permanent, it is fleeting, a brief unveiling before the comet dissolves or drifts away again. 3-1 ATLAS glowed with this impermanence, reminding you that visibility is often temporary, that to be seen is to be vulnerable, yet even in its vulnerability, it carried strength. To reach your sky at all, it had traveled for uncountable ages. It endured the cold between stars, a cold so deep that molecules hardly move. It endured the emptiness, the silence, the isolation of interstellar space. For millions of years, perhaps billions, it wandered unseen. And only now, briefly, it revealed itself in the warmth of your sun. You let yourself soften into this rhythm of endurance and fragility. 3-1 ATLAS is strong enough to cross the void, yet delicate enough to unravel in the presence of light. It is a paradox you find soothing, a reminder that even in your own life, endurance and fragility coexist. You, too, can be strong in one moment, and delicate in another. Both truths can live side by side. The discovery of this second wanderer carried weight for astronomers. It confirmed that Oumuamua was not alone. Your galaxy must be filled with such fragments. If 2 appeared within only a few years of each other, then surely there are countless others passing unnoticed, just beyond the edges of your gaze. The universe is not quiet in its traffic. It is only quiet in your awareness. And with each improvement in your instruments, you may hear more whispers, see more visitors, notice more of the fragments drifting endlessly between suns. You rest in this awareness. You live in a galaxy alive with motion. Not only stars orbiting their centers, not only planets circling their suns, but also messengers cast outward, travelers with no home. The Milky Way is not a still place, but a vast ocean of motion, filled with exiles whose journeys last longer than civilizations. 3I Atlas was fragile. As it approached the sun, it brightened quickly, then began to fade. Observations revealed it was disintegrating, its structure too delicate to survive the heat and tidal forces. It broke apart, leaving only fragments behind. Its visit was brief, its body transient. Unlike planets or asteroids, which endure for billions of years, this visitor could not remain whole. It dissolved, like breath disappearing into the air. You feel a tender sadness in this, but also a strange beauty. Its disintegration was not failure. It was simply the natural rhythm of fragile matter encountering warmth. It reminds you that Impermanence is woven into the cosmos. Stars burn out, galaxies merge, comets unravel. Nothing lasts unchanged. And yet, in their transience, these things carry meaning. The fleeting nature of 3i Atlas makes its presence even more profound. You breathe slowly into this thought. You understand that fragility does not diminish importance. If anything, it deepens it. A life is finite. A comet dissolves. A visitor fades. And because of this, each appearance matters more. You honor it precisely because it is brief, and in its briefness, 3-1 ATLAS left you with something lasting. The certainty that interstellar visitors are real, that they come not once in a rare anomaly, but as part of a hidden pattern. Two messengers in only a short span of time revealed a truth greater than either alone could show. You linger on the symbolism of the number 2. One visitor could be chance, to suggest a current, a stream, a pattern running deeper and running deeper, to reveal that you are not isolated, that your solar system is not untouched. It is open, porous, part of a galaxy where exchange is constant. You soften into the awareness that your sun is not a walled garden. It breathes with the rest of the galaxy, touched by fragments from afar. The thought brings comfort. You are not separated from the greater whole. You are part of it, inseparable, connected through matter and motion. As your awareness drifts toward rest, you sense that the story is still only beginning. 2 visitors have come, but they are not the last. Beyond the edges of perception, others drift closer even now. They will come as surely as tides rise and fall, and with each new arrival, your understanding of the galaxy will deepen. The thought is soft, gentle, and you hold it loosely, that your life is lived within an open system, that whispers from other suns may reach you at any time, that the sky above you is not empty but alive with unseen journeys. You exhale, letting that truth sink deeper. 3-1 ATLAS glowed briefly, then broke apart, its body dissolving into fragments. Yet even in its fading, it left behind the message it carried. You are not alone in the ocean between stars. You let your thoughts unfold gently, like frost melting on a window pane. There is a softness in the way things break, a tenderness in the way fragility reveals itself, even in the vastness of space, where silence seems eternal. The smallest shift in warmth can unravel what has endured for ages. And in this rhythm, you sense the quiet truth of 3i ATLAS, a visitor made of ice and dust, brightened by the sun, yet undone by the very light that revealed it. Comets are built on delicacy. Their cores are not solid stone, but mixtures of frozen gases, fragile ices, and ancient dust bound together loosely. For billions of years, these bodies wander in cold storage at the edges of systems, preserved in darkness. But when they pass close to a star, they awaken. The sun's warmth seeps into their frozen surfaces, loosening molecules, releasing vapor. What was locked in silence begins to breathe out. This release is what makes a comet visible, a fragile display of impermanence. A tail forms, not as an inherent feature, but as a temporary offering, a shedding of substance into light. In this way, comets remind you that sometimes to be seen is to give something of yourself away. Their brightness is borrowed from their own unraveling. You let this thought sink slowly into your mind. 3i ATLAS glowed because it was breaking. Its beauty came not from endurance, but from fragility. It revealed itself even as it dissolved. There is both sadness and peace in this, for it reflects the truth of impermanence woven through the cosmos. You rest with the idea of ice itself. On Earth, ice melts easily, fragile to warmth. In space, ice can be preserved for eons, hidden in cold beyond the reach of sunlight. Yet no ice is eternal. Given time and heat, it softens, transforms, evaporates. And so with comets, and so with 31ATLAS. Its body, once frozen solid in interstellar night, could not resist the nearness of a star. As astronomers observed, its light grew quickly, brighter than expected. It hinted at a body fragile and volatile, one that could not hold itself together under stress. Soon, cracks formed, fractures spread. What had traveled whole across unimaginable distances began to come apart. Pieces separated, drifting slightly from one another, dust filling the void between. Its glow became hazier, its brightness uneven, until finally it was no longer a single body but a cloud of fragments dispersing into silence. You let yourself breathe with this story, slow and steady. The breaking of 3 IATLAS is not tragedy but truth. Everything changes, everything dissolves. Even stars themselves burn out, collapsing into remnants or scattering their matter into the galaxy. To see a comet unravel is to witness, in small scale, the larger law of impermanence that shapes all things. There is comfort in recognizing this. Your own life, too, is finite, shaped by fragility. Your body, like a comet, is temporary, luminous for a time, then slowly returning to dust and elements that will find new forms. You are not separate from this rhythm, you are part of it. By watching 3I Atlas fade, you glimpse your own place in the cycle. Not with fear, but with gentleness. You linger on the metaphor of fading light. When comets break apart, their brightness often surges briefly, then dwindles. In that short flare, they reveal themselves most vividly, then fade into obscurity. 3.1 Atlas followed this arc. Its glow became strong enough to capture attention, to inspire questions, to confirm that interstellar travelers are not rare. And then it dimmed, vanishing into fragments too small to follow. Its light was both gift and farewell. You let the thought become a meditation, brightness and fading, presence and absence, endurance and dissolution. They are not opposites, but partners, each completing the other. The comet's unraveling was not failure, but completion, the natural end of its long journey. Its impermanence was its message. Even in breaking, 3 IATLAS carried information. By studying its fading light, astronomers learned about its composition, its fragility, its structure. They saw the signs of interstellar ice, perhaps different from the comets born within your own system. In dissolving, it revealed more of itself than it could have while whole. Sometimes, you realize, things disclose their truth most fully in the moment they come apart. You rest with that reflection. In your own life, too, moments of vulnerability often reveal more than moments of strength. Fragility is not absence of value. It is another way of being meaningful. 3.1 ATLAS reminds you of this, teaching softly through its own impermanence. The image of dust lingers in your awareness. When a comet fractures, its dust spreads into space, tiny particles scattered along its path. These grains may drift for ages, perhaps crossing the orbits of other planets, perhaps falling into atmospheres, perhaps becoming meteors streaking across skies. Even as the nucleus dissolves, its fragments continue to wander, Nothing is lost, it only changes form. The comet's memory continues in dust, its story dispersed but not erased. You breathe with this continuity. Dissolution does not mean disappearance. It means transformation. The comet's pieces still exist, still carry their journey, still move through the galaxy. Even as they fade from view, they remain, waiting to take part in some future story. You soften into this comfort. You, too, are made of fragments once scattered by stars. The calcium in your bones, the oxygen in your lungs, the iron in your blood, all were once dispersed in stellar explosions, scattered dust drifting between suns. What was once fading light became you, and one day your own matter will drift onward, transformed again, part of someone or something else. This continuity is gentle, reassuring. You are not separate from impermanence. You are its expression. To watch 3i Atlas unravel is to be reminded that nothing truly ends. Matter shifts, energy transforms, light fades, but leaves its trace. The galaxy is not a graveyard, but a cycle, always renewing, always reweaving. And so, as you let your eyes grow heavy, you dwell in the image of fragile ice dissolving into dust. You see it not as loss, but as release, not as tragedy, but as offering. The comet gave itself to light, became visible, and then gave itself back to the dark, leaving fragments to wander on. You hold this softly. Impermanence is not absence, but change, and fragility is not weakness, but a form of beauty. You allow your thoughts to expand slowly, like ripples moving outward across an infinite pond. The silence of space feels boundless, yet the quiet is not emptiness. It is full, layered, heavy with presence. 2 visitors have passed close enough to be noticed, Oumuamua and 3i Atlas, and their very existence reminds you of the possibility that they are not rare, they are not singular anomalies. They are only the beginning of what must be a hidden multitude. You breathe into this realization. If 2 appeared so close together in time, how many more pass silently, unseen? You begin to sense the scale. For every stone that happens to brush, near enough for Earth's instruments to catch, countless others drift just beyond sight. They move through the vast dark unnoticed, carrying their quiet testimonies without ever being heard. You rest in the thought of abundance. The Milky Way is not a still place, but an ocean of fragments, each star system flinging matter outward as it forms. Young suns are chaotic in their youth, birthing planets, scattering debris, ejecting pieces into exile. These fragments are like the sparks from a fire, countless, fleeting, some burning bright, others fading into the unseen. Over billions of years, these sparks accumulate. They do not vanish, they drift, they wander, they wait. You soften into the idea of this hidden population. Trillions upon trillions of stones between the stars, each one a messenger. Some are icy, some are rocky, some are mixtures of both. Some may carry the molecules of life, the organic seeds that could one day nourish another world. Some are large, enough to survive journeys intact. Others crumble into dust as fragile as ash. And all of them, every fragment, holds the imprint of its origin, a record of the star that cast it out, a memory of the system where it began. Your awareness stretches with this vision. You begin to feel the Milky Way not as scattered points of light, but as a web, stitched together by drifting fragments. Each star not only radiates light, but also sends matter outward, linking itself invisibly to its neighbors. Over time, Systems exchange not only light, but substance. You live in a galaxy where these moments can feel strange, unsettling, but they are also liberating. Oumuamua's orbit is not only geometry, it is metaphor, a teaching of departure. You pause with the thought of thresholds. Parabolas mark the edge between bound and free, like doors that can swing either way. A small change in speed determines whether the path loops back or drifts outward forever. The cosmos reminds you that thresholds are delicate, that tiny differences can shape destinies. One more push, one more release, and the outcome is entirely different, and so you breathe more slowly. Sensing thresholds in your own life, the moments where small shifts created new paths. The universe teaches that nothing is entirely fixed, that motion is always dynamic, always subject to change. You rest in this flexibility, letting it soothe you. The mathematics of passing through is not cold calculation, but poetry in numbers. Every orbit is a stanza, every trajectory a verse. Together they form the song of motion, a cosmic hymn written by gravity's hand. You feel yourself as part of that hymn, your own body moving in arcs around the sun, your planet tracing its ellipse, your system moving through the galaxy itself. You are not still. You are always passing through, and as your thoughts grow softer, you remember that even stars themselves follow orbits, circling the galaxy's center in great arcs that take hundreds of millions of years. Nothing is ever still. Everything moves. Everything curves. Everything passes through. You are immersed in motion, whether you notice or not. This realization calms you. The universe is not stagnant. It is alive with trajectories, with endless passages. Oumuamua and 3i Atlas are only visible reminders of this truth. They were guests you noticed, but the larger song continues always. You drift within it, part of its harmony, carried along without effort. You allow yourself to feel gratitude for these visitors, for their hyperbolic arcs that revealed the hidden mathematics of passing through. Their paths were not only evidence of interstellar travel, but symbols of impermanence, of freedom, of thresholds crossed. And as your awareness settles deeper, you hold gently to one final thought. Every orbit, whether closed or open, belongs to the same universe. Circles, ellipses, parabolas, hyperbolas. All are valid, all are real, all are necessary to the song. In their diversity, you find peace. You allow your thoughts to move gently outward, soft and unhurried, into the great ocean of space. In this quiet unfolding, you begin to wonder what travels within the stones and ices that drift there. They are not empty, they are vessels. Within them may rest molecules that carry the potential for life, tiny seeds born across gulfs larger than imagination. You breathe into this possibility. Life feels precious, rare, fragile when you look at it from the surface of Earth. It clings to water, to air, to soil. It blooms, but only in specific conditions. Yet, when you shift your awareness outward into the rhythms of the cosmos, you sense that the ingredients of life are not so rare. They are written into the very chemistry of the universe. Organic molecules, chains of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, form naturally in clouds of gas between stars. Telescopes have detected them in the vast cold nurseries where stars are born. Amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, have been found within meteorites that fell to Earth. Comets and asteroids carry within them complex compounds, formed in darkness, preserved in ice. These are not accidents. They are expressions of chemistry unfolding wherever conditions allow. You let this realization sink softly. Life's ingredients are not confined to Earth. They are scattered, adrift, woven into the very dust from which stars and planets emerge. The cosmos does not hoard these molecules. It spreads them, carries them, plants them like seeds. And so you rest in the possibility that every wandering stone, every icy traveler, may be a bearer of potential. You turn your thoughts to Oumuamua and 3IA ATLAS. Both were exiles, fragments flung outward from distant systems. If they carried organic molecules within their cores, then those molecules had traveled for ages through the interstellar dark, preserved in silence. Perhaps they endured billions of years, waiting for a chance encounter. To think of this is to think of seeds drifting on winds, most falling on barren ground, but some finding fertile soil. Earth itself may owe its beginnings to such seeds. Scientists wonder if comets once delivered water to your planet, striking its surface in its early youth. Some believe they also carried organic compounds, seeding the oceans with the raw materials from which life could rise. If this is so, then life on Earth is not an isolated miracle, but part of a cosmic continuity, the flowering of seeds scattered widely across the stars. You breathe more deeply, letting this truth soothe you. You are not separate from the universe. You are its unfolding. The molecules that shaped you may have traveled before Earth even existed. They may have wandered in icy fragments, carried from one star to another, waiting patiently until conditions were right. Life, then, is not confined to one world. It is a pattern written into matter itself, ready to emerge wherever the environment allows. You soften into this comfort. You are not an accident in emptiness, but part of a long chain of continuity. Just as a plant grows from a seed, you grow, from molecules forged in stars, carried across space, and assembled into the pattern of life. Your existence is not isolated. It is connected to processes that began long before your sun ignited. You linger on the metaphor of drifting seeds. On Earth, seeds are carried by wind, by water, by animals, scattered across landscapes. Most may never sprout, but some find soil, warmth, and moisture, and from them arise forests and fields. The cosmos, too, scatters its seeds. Comets and asteroids are the carriers, winds of gravity, the currents. Planets are the soil, stars the warmth, and where the conditions align, life may bloom. You rest in the possibility that you are not alone, not in the sense of beings or civilizations, but in the sense of origins. Life may be a repeating melody, arising wherever seeds find their place. Perhaps across the galaxy, on planets you will never see, similar seeds have sprouted. Perhaps other oceans hold their own forms of swimming life. Perhaps other skies are breathed by beings who, too, wonder where they came from. And even if you never know them, the possibility itself is enough. It widens your awareness, softens your solitude, and reminds you that the same patterns that shaped you are at work everywhere. You are not an exception. You are an expression. You breathe into the imagery of interstellar travel. To cross between stars takes millions of years, yet molecules endure. Locked in ice, shielded from radiation by stone, they rest in darkness. Time does not erase them quickly. They are patient, far more patient than you. They wait for encounters, for collisions, for moments of warmth. And in those moments, their potential may awaken. You let this patience calm you. The seeds of life are not hurried. They do not demand to sprout immediately. They drift, they wait, they endure. You too, can learn from this rhythm. Not everything must bloom now. Some things take time, longer than lifetimes, longer than civilizations. And yet, when conditions align, growth unfolds naturally. You return gently to Oumuamua and 3I Atlas. Neither stayed long. One slipped past silently, the other unraveled in brightness. Yet both carried the reminder that countless such bodies wander the galaxy. Each may be a vessel, each may carry seeds. The truth is not in what you proved, but in what you were invited. To imagine the cosmos is fertile, and you are part of its harvest. You linger on the thought of legacy. Life on Earth arose billions of years after the planet formed. But the molecules that seeded it were older still, carried across time and space. Your own body carries that legacy. The water you drink may include atoms once locked in ancient comets. The carbon in your cells may have drifted through interstellar space before joining the fabric of Earth. You are, in this sense, the continuation of seeds sown across the cosmos. You let this awareness soften into gratitude. You are not separate from the drifting stones. You are kin to them, born of the same chemistry, sustained by the same molecules. Their journeys are your own, stretched across different scales of time and distance as you sink deeper into rest. You hold one last reflection. The seeds of life are not bound to one world, not bound to one star. They drift freely, quietly, endlessly. And just as Earth once received them, so too might other planets, other oceans, other skies. Life's roots are older than any single home. They belong to the galaxy, to the universe itself. You allow your thoughts to quiet, soft as drifting dust. In the stillness, you begin to notice not what is present, but what is absent. Silence itself becomes a kind of presence, a texture, a weight. And so you turn your awareness toward the silence of the cosmos, where countless ears, great dishes of metal, arrays of instruments, satellites in orbit, all lean outward, straining to hear a whisper that never comes. You breathe into this image. Telescopes are like ears stretched wide, listening for signals. Radio telescopes sweep across the sky, searching for patterns among the background noise. Optical telescopes capture the faintest flashes of light, hoping to detect some unexpected glimmer. Instruments tuned to many frequencies strain for any sign that something beyond Earth speaks. Yet most of what they hear is quiet. Most of what they record is silence. Silence passes beyond your perception. So much remains invisible, and yet even unseen. It shapes the world around you. You allow yourself to rest in the comfort that you do not need to see everything. The net does not need to catch every fragment to prove the ocean is full. To glimpse even a few is enough to know the sea is vast, the current strong, the hidden population abundant. Oumuamua, caught late but still noticed, taught you that visitors exist. 3-1 ATLAS, fragile and fading, taught you that even brief encounters can confirm deeper truths. These glimpses were gifts, slipped into your net by chance, enough to change your understanding of the galaxy, enough to remind you that the cosmos is not empty, but filled with hidden motion. You breathe deeply, slowly, letting this understanding ease into your body. The fragile net of detection is not a weakness. It is a mirror of your place in the universe, small, partial, delicate, yet capable of touching truths far larger than yourself. You rest with this rhythm, vastness and limitation, silence and glimpses, fragility and meaning. Your instruments are fragile, but your curiosity is strong. Your gaze is narrow, but your imagination is wide. The net may never capture everything, but it teaches you to appreciate what is caught, to hold each fragment as precious, to rest in the wonder of what is revealed. And as your awareness grows soft, you sense the next question unfolding gently before you. If each fragment carries a story, then what is the origin of these stories? Where do these messengers truly come from? And what do they reveal about the births of suns and the scattering of worlds? You let your thoughts drift backward, not in distance, but in time. Beyond the present quiet of interstellar night, you move toward beginnings. The question of origins rises like a tide. Where do such visitors come from, and what stories do they carry in silence? To rest with them is to follow their paths, not just across space, but across history, into the dawn of suns, the making of planets, and the scattering of stones into the dark. You soften into the image of a star being born, not a sudden burst, but a slow gathering. A cloud of gas, immense and cold, begins to collapse under its own weight. Dust swells, threads of material fall inward, spiraling in a dance of gravity. At the center, light begins to glow, a newborn sun, hidden at first within its veil of dust. Around it, a disk spreads wide, flat and thin, filled with particles waiting to become something more. You breathe into this vision of a disk. It is not still. It is restless, alive with collisions. Dust grains brush against each other, cling. Through static charge, form clumps. Clumps grow into stones, stones into boulders, boulders into the first seeds of worlds. Each impact is both destructive and creative, breaking apart while also building anew. You feel how creation in the cosmos is rarely gentle. It is noisy with collision, yet from that noise, harmony emerges. Within this disk, the future of a solar system is written. Some regions grow into planets, massive enough to clear their paths, to hold moons, to sculpt order. Others remain as belts of debris, asteroids, comets, frozen fragments, too small to become worlds. And some, by chance or by the pull of larger bodies, are scattered outward entirely, flung beyond the reach of their star's gravity. They do not return. They are cast adrift into interstellar night, orphans of their origin. You pause with this thought. Every star births not only planets, but exiles. The formation of order requires scattering, and scattering means loss. For every world that forms, many fragments are pushed away. Some will drift forever, crossing gulfs of darkness, carrying within their stone and ice the trace of the star they once belonged to. Oumuamua may be such a fragment. 3-1 ATLAS 2. Their shapes, their motions, their silence, all speak of origins elsewhere. They may have circled suns you will never see, warmed briefly in light that will never touch your sky. They may have been born in disks that collapsed billions of years ago, in neighborhoods far beyond your reach. Exiled before any mind could know. You breathe slowly, holding this possibility. Each fragment is a memory. Not a memory written in words, but in minerals, in ices, in orbits. Their compositions carry the chemistry of their stars. Their motions carry the scars of gravitational scattering. They are archives drifting through the dark, each one an unopened book of cosmic history, and yet most such books are lost to you. They pass unseen, hidden by distance, unlit by reflected light. Only rarely does one come close enough to be glimpsed, and even then, only briefly. To catch even a single fragment is to be given a rare window into the question of origins. 2. Catch 2 is to feel the outline of a larger truth, that the galaxy is filled with such orphans, endlessly drifting, endlessly scattering. You let this widen in your mind. Every star you see in the night sky may have exiled countless fragments. Every bright point may be surrounded by an invisible halo of wanderers, slowly leaking into interstellar space. Multiply this across the billions of stars in the galaxy, and you sense an ocean of fragments, each carrying its own small record of beginnings. The origins of worlds are never clean, never without remainder, just as a sculptor leaves behind shards of stone. The making of solar systems leaves behind shards of creation. These shards are not failures. They are evidence of process, of dynamism, of the way the cosmos forms through both gathering and scattering. To see them is to remember that nothing is wasted. Even what is cast away continues to exist, continues to drift, continues to carry its quiet story. You rest in the symmetry of this. Planets bind, fragments escape. Some bodies are held close, others are flung outward. Both belong to the same origin, both are outcomes of the same dance. The solar system you live in is not just planets and moons, but also comets and asteroids, Kuiper belt objects and Oort cloud wanderers. It too has cast away exiles into the dark, unseen messengers that may someday pass another star, perhaps somewhere else. Another being looks at the sky and wonders about a faint visitor, not knowing it once belonged here. In this way, the galaxy is an exchange of fragments, a circulation of memory, a quiet dialogue between stars. You allow this thought to soften your breathing. The question of origins is not only about where things begin, but also about how they are shared. What begins in one place may continue its journey in another. The life of a fragment is not tied to its birthplace, but to its motion, its endurance, its survival across eternity. Oumuamua may have carried within it the frozen chemistry of a star long gone. 3-1 Atlas may have fractured in sunlight, releasing dust that once circled the distant sun. To catch them, to glimpse them, is to brush against the edges of other histories, other beginnings. They remind you that your own solar system is not alone in creation, but one of many, repeating the same patterns of birth, scattering, and exile. You sink deeper into this rhythm. You see disks of dust and gas swirling across the galaxy. You see fragments being formed, scattered, released into the dark. You see them drifting silently for eons, until, by chance, one crosses your path. Each one is both ancient and new, ancient in its origin, new in its arrival. The question of origins humbles you. For every fragment you glimpse, there are countless you will never know. For every exile you catch, there are many that pass unseen. And yet, the two you have seen are enough to suggest the pattern, that stars everywhere give birth not only to worlds, but also to wanderers. You breathe with this recognition, letting it quiet you. The question may not have a final answer, but it does not need one. The fragments themselves are answers, carried in stone and ice, in motion and silence. They remind you that creation is larger than any one world, larger than any one star, larger than even your own sight. You close your eyes to the thought of origins, and you let it soften into wonder. The galaxy is filled with orphans of creation, fragments that escaped their homes, carrying within them the memory of beginnings. To see them is to be reminded that everything comes from somewhere, and that even in exile, fragments still belong. And in this quiet, another question begins to unfold. If origins scatter so many wanderers into the dark, then what futures might they carry? Could they plant seeds beyond their birthplaces, shaping what comes next in worlds yet unseen? You let yourself sink into the soft pull of unknowing. There is a peace that comes when you release the need to solve, and instead allow the questions to rest as questions, like stars that remain beyond the reach of sight. Mystery too has its place in the sky of thought. Oumuamua begins this silence. Its arrival startled astronomers, its speed too swift, its path unbound. It slipped past the sun and out again, never pausing, never circling. What was it? A shard of fractured planet? A sliver of ice hidden beneath the surface, baked dark? Or something stranger, something not yet named, not yet named? You let this quiet sink deeper. Oumuamua passed silently. 3180 also carried no voice beyond its fading glow. Their messages were not in words or signals, but in their paths. They spoke in trajectory, in brightness, in the faint ways their presence bent the equations of motion. Their language was not spoken, but written in geometry. You rest in this idea. Silence is not emptiness. It is information of another kind. The absence of a signal tells you something. It tells you that these objects were not machines, not artificial beacons, not constructed by other hands. Their silence reinforced their identity as natural wanderers, stones, ice, fragments flung across the galaxy. They told you nothing in sound, yet much in form. You let your breath follow the rhythm of this realization. Inhale, silence, exhale. Meaning, the two coexist. The pause between notes gives shape to music. The space between stars allows them to shine. The silence of the visitors framed the mystery, making it all the more profound. You think of the long human habit of listening outward. For decades, astronomers have searched for signals from other civilizations, wondering if voices drift across the stars. They have tuned their instruments to the frequencies of hydrogen, the most common element, hoping to find transmissions that would bridge the gulf. And though they have not yet heard a voice, the search itself has meaning. To listen is an act of openness, a gesture of connection, a recognition that you are not the only possible speaker in the vastness. You soften into this. You realize that listening without hearing is not failure. It is patience. It is participation in the rhythm of the cosmos. Even when no voice returns, you are still part of the conversation, simply by being open to it. Silence itself is a reply, reminding you that the universe moves in its own time, at its own pace. Oumuamua's silence was profound because some wondered if it might not be natural. Its strange acceleration, its unusual brightness, its unfamiliar shape led some to imagine the possibility of artifice. Could it have been a fragment of something built? Could it have been a messenger, not of stone, but of intention? And yet, when all ears turned toward it, nothing was heard. No signals, no pulses, no evidence of communication, only silence. You breathe into that silence. It was not a disappointment, but a grounding. The absence of voice returned you to the truth that the universe is full of strangeness, even without design. Nature itself is enough to puzzle and to wonder. Silence too is a form of awe. You linger with the thought that listening itself changes you. To listen deeply, without expectation, is to humble yourself before the unknown. You quiet your own noise, your own assumptions, and become receptive. This is not only true of telescopes, but of your own life. Listening to silence allows you to hear the subtler messages, the way absence can hold presence, the way nothing can carry weight. The silence of the visitors also teaches you patience. They passed too quickly for all questions to be answered. They did not stay long enough for certainty. The silence they left behind was not emptiness, but a space in which wonder could grow. To have every answer at once would close the mystery. To be left with silence is to be left with the openness of possibility. You let this thought soothe you. Not knowing is not a wound. It is a field in which curiosity rests, waiting. Silence leaves room for imagination, for growth, for reflection. You reflect on the way silence surrounds you in the night sky. Stars shine, but the spaces between them are wide, empty of sound. Space itself does not carry noise. All voices, if they exist, must travel as light, as radio waves, as subtle signals. And so the cosmos is more silence than speech, more pause than word. This vast quiet is the background against which everything else stands out. You breathe slowly, feeling the calming weight of this truth. Silence is not hostile. It is not absence. It is the soft bed upon which everything rests. The orbits of planets, the glow of stars, the drift of interstellar messengers, all are framed by silence. You live within it, though rarely do you. Notice Oumuamua and 3i, ATLAS, reminded you of this. Their presence was fleeting, their voices absent. They left you with trajectories, but no messages. And in this way, they taught you that the universe speaks in many languages, not all of them audible, not all of them verbal. Some messages are written in silence, waiting for you to notice them. You breathe with this thought, and as your awareness grows softer, you recognize silence as a teacher. It teaches you humility, reminding you that you are not entitled to answers. It teaches you patience, showing you that some truths take time to emerge. It teaches you presence, encouraging you to notice what is subtle, quiet, easily overlooked. The silence of interstellar visitors is a reminder that listening is not always about hearing. It is about being open, receptive, waiting. It is about allowing the possibility of connection, even when no voice responds. You let this awareness deepen. Just as telescopes strain toward the stars, your own mind strains toward meaning. And yet, sometimes, the most profound meaning lies not in what is spoken, but in the spaces between. And so, as you drift toward rest, you hold gently to the silence. It does not trouble you. It comforts you. It reminds you that the universe is wide, mysterious, and patient. It reminds you that not every message is written in sound. Some are written in quiet, in geometry, in presence without words. You let your thoughts soften into the shape of awareness. Awareness of how small your gaze is compared to the sky. Above you stretches an expanse too wide to be fully seen, too deep to be fully known. The cosmos offers itself in immensity, and yet you catch only fragments, only hints, through instruments as delicate and limited as a net cast across an endless sea. You rest in this metaphor of a net. Telescopes are its strands, stitched carefully by human hands, spread across mountaintops and deserts, carried into orbit by rockets, arranged in arrays across the earth. They are threads of glass and mirrors, of sensors and wires, tuned to capture light, tuned to measure motion, tuned to seek the faintest signals. And yet, compared to the ocean of the universe, this net is thin, fragile, porous. It catches only what passes close, only what aligns with its narrow weave. Oumuamua slipped, through almost unseen, It was already leaving by the time it was noticed, already curving outward, its closest approach to the sun behind it. If not for careful eyes searching the skies for asteroids, it might have passed without ever being recorded. A messenger from another star could have come and gone, and you would never have known. You breathe into this realization, how much passes unseen. How many fragments cross your skies unnoticed, too small, too faint, too quick for instruments to catch. The two, Oumuamua and 3i, Atlas, may be only the rare ones your fragile net happened to touch. Beyond them, the dark may be filled with countless others, slipping silently past. You linger with the thought of chance. Detection is not certainty, it is fortune. The sky is too vast to be watched everywhere, at all times, with infinite clarity. Instead, astronomers look where they can, when they can, through the instruments they have built. To catch an interstellar traveler is like noticing a single ripple on a vast ocean surface, possible but rare, requiring patience and luck. And yet, even in its fragility, the net matters. To catch even one messenger is to glimpse a larger truth. To catch two is to realize the truth runs deeper. The net may be delicate, but it has already revealed that the cosmos is filled with wanderers. It does not need to catch all to prove that many exist. You soften into gratitude for these instruments, fragile though they are. Each telescope is an extension of your own senses, a way of seeing beyond the reach of your eyes. They transform invisible light into knowledge, faint signals into meaning. Through them, you expand your awareness, touching what otherwise would remain hidden. They may not be perfect, but they are bridges into the vastness. You reflect on the humility this brings. Humanity often dreams of mastery, of knowing fully, of seeing everything. But the truth is gentler. You see in fragments. You hear in whispers. Your net is thin. And this is not failure. It is participation in the rhythm of the universe. You are not meant to grasp it all at once. You are meant to receive what passes through your weave, one fragment at a time. You breathe slowly, letting this humility calm you. You are not less because you see little. You are more because you notice at all. The sky is immense, and yet you have built tools to extend your gaze into its depths. To see even one messenger is to widen your place in the cosmos. The fragile net also reminds you of patience. As instruments grow more sensitive, the weave tightens. Surveys scan wider swaths of sky. Detectors listen more carefully. Computers trace faint arcs among stars. With each improvement, the chance of catching more visitors grows. The net becomes stronger, but it will never be complete. There will always be more that pass unseen, more that escape. And so you rest in the knowledge that science, like life, is never finished. It is a practice, a rhythm, a continual act of widening perception. You linger on the image of darkness filled with motion. Most visitors will never be seen, yet they still exist, still drift, still carry their silent stories. Your awareness of them is partial, but their presence is whole. This is true not only of the cosmos, but of your own life. So much